We're live. I don't know who's going to be here because it's 4 hours late, but we'll see. I'll see how this works out. Got Brody working behind me today. Bro, can you wave?
I'm working on my new YouTube video for my channel, Brody Studio. Go check it out.
I didn't know you were going to self-promote there, my guy. So look, I'll wait and see who's on here. We'll do questions and answer anything that I can. What's up, Better Late? And then we will kind of take it from there and see where we're at. I'll explain what's going on in a second too, and when folks start getting in here, when we hit a critical mass as usual. I have a lot of mosquito bites on my legs right now.
They're hot and full.
And they're like big, giant, flailing mosquito bites. Kyle is that the real Kyle Hightower? Like, don't smile, Kyle Hightower? Kyle, you got to tell me.
Yes, it's gotta be.
This is Kyle Hightower from the book. I'm waiting for him to answer. I'm like eagerly awaiting to hear if Kyle is Kyle. I mean, how many Kyle Hightowers could there be in the world?
Mm-hmm.
Not many. That's my guess. All right, so I'll jump in. So Jake, you can start the podcast.
Oh, you responded.
Now, did she pop up?
Yeah. Oh, mine did. Yeah, there goes.
Yep, that's my guy. You're welcome, Kyle. That's Kyle Hightower. So if you've read my book, Teach Your Class Off, that's Kyle that I talk about in there. And he is one of the most, and I'm not even exaggerating. I'm really not exaggerating. Like, he's one of the greatest kids I ever have known, ever. And he is an exceptional person. So that's Kyle. So I am CJ Reynolds, and I run this YouTube channel, Real Rap With Reynolds, where every Sunday we do this thing where we show up and we try to be a community for folks to come into and try and find answers, try and find some peace, try and find some readiness to go back into their week with. Because although the school year has ended for many of us, it's not over for everyone. And then there's always summer school. And then some of you go back to school like in July. So it's really feels like it's never ending. The whole idea behind this is for you, like I said, to show up, put questions in the chat, but know that I'm not going to be the only one answering them, that it will be me and anybody else that's in the chat will be answering those as well. This typically happens at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but we had a family thing that happened, could not be helped. And so, alas, we are coming at you at 5 p.m. today, which is the old time we used to do this. Mm-hmm. If you have a question, put it in the side. If you could put Q or question next to it, just helps us to identify those things. And if this isn't enough, right, I'm going to self-promote for a minute because, it's my channel. I can do whatever I want. I have a book available. Bam. Teach Your Class Off, Real Rap Guide to Teaching. Has nothing to do with actual rap. Has something to do with truth, though. And it's basically the book I wish existed when I first started teaching. Everything from how to connect with students, social emotional learning, differentiated instruction, dealing with toxic teachers, just how to go all out in being a teacher in the best way possible. And then I'm also available, like if your school orders that, especially a lot of schools are ordering them for over the summer, I will do a free Skype call with your group if you do a book group. So just be mindful of that, and that is all. And then there's speaking and mentoring and all these other things that you can find on my website, realrapwithreynolds.com. Any questions? No? So if you have a question, you can put it in the side there. I'm really wondering how folks are getting ready for this summer. We were talking about how we had plans. I've talked about this before. Marley and I driving cross country this summer, and then that got squashed because we're not sure where to go to the bathroom. And then, and I'm not ready to just buy a full-on camper, which is something I've thought about. And then, what else do we do that, a lot of the summer things we typically do are just not there. So it's what is looking like going to the beach look like this year? What does anything else? And so it's trying to come up with cool stuff to do or like fun stuff to do this summer that I'm not sure. There's one giant fly in my house and it just keeps going by. It is enormous. It's so big that it can't even fly fast. It's just kind of like this. You'll see it, I'm sure. So it's like, yeah, what do we do this summer? Like, where do we go? What kind of stuff are we doing together? Because we've had a lot of together time in the last 3-4 months. A lot of together time. It's been a lot of together time. So, but like, how are we making memories going forward into the summer and stuff like that? So, yeah.
Oh yeah.
You got one on there. Let's go. Anna is asking, what does the teaching license exam cover? What are you tested over? I don't remember. I'm gonna be honest with you. So if somebody else has the answer to this one, that would be great. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because one, initial praxis, I think it's a lot of like educational law and stuff like that. And then the praxis 2 was content based. And I failed the first time because we were going to Puerto Rico the next day, or maybe, I don't know if it's later that day or if it was the next day, for like 2 weeks in the middle. It was like February or January. It was freezing cold. And so we decided to just go to Puerto Rico. So we went surfing in Puerto Rico for 2 weeks. And then I failed because I was excited and I just didn't want to do it. So that was a good move on my part. And then I went back and did it the second time and passed. But, you know, I felt like for the English part, it was a lot of base knowledge in what you would need to know as an English teacher, but then based on a lot of books that I read. Like, it was based on Toni Morrison books that, like, I never read Beloved before. So, and I remember that book standing out to me because I thought, like, how can they assume that I would read? Like, I didn't get a reading list ahead of time or anything. So that was bizarre. So I don't have a good answer for that. But alas, that's why we're here. That's so people on the side there can answer stuff too. What's the next one? Got it. Chloe Allen is asking, any tips on starting or I think it's supposed to say starting a teaching YouTube channel, blog, things like that. I'm soon to be student teaching and I want to share my experience. So Chloe, I would say do it now for a number of reasons. One, there's a lot of emphasis put on, so I got dogged on Instagram and I want to talk about why I think that wraps into this. Yeah, that lady, or I think it was a woman, that dogged me on the virtual conference that's coming up. It'd be about it. So I'm doing this conference with my friend Shivy, who goes by Call Me Shivy on Instagram. So he and Hope and Wade King created a conference. They partnered together to create this conference that's called Be About It. And the idea is talking about the topic of race and a lot of what's going on, like in social media, in the regular media, on the street, and how are we going to address this next year when we go back? Because if we're just talking Black Lives Matter and we're not living Black Lives Matter, there's a problem. There's a disconnect there. There goes that giant fly again. So in that, I got asked to be a part of this. Somebody says, what is the money going to that is raised by this? And then someone dogged me and was like, this is a money-making scheme. It's just these folks are out there trying to make money. And they are trying to make money so they can help people out. And so it's this really great thing. But, you know, one of the comments was that none of us are experts and that we're just social media influencers. And I think there is something to say about that, with this idea that you need to be an expert or have some sort of documentation to have an opinion, a thought, a feeling, an idea. And I don't think that that's true. I think that if I was starting a YouTube channel now, one of the things I would do is, one, be completely honest. Do not look at what everyone else is doing and try and be a homogenized version of what everyone else is doing. It's a bad move, and it's more authentic if you just come off as yourself.
And it already exists.
Yeah, it already exists. So, like, how are you going to be slightly different? So, like, I have a video coming out that I'm putting out next week on how to do a job interview, right? And it's like there's tons of the same stuff of job interviews out there. So to me, it was like, well, what can I add to the conversation that's not the same thing? One. Two, even if we're saying the same thing, as a lot of other people, don't feel like you have to recreate the wheel, right? The messenger is as important as the message. You might say something, be something, do something that speaks to other people in a way that they just didn't get it before, right? So you might be that voice. And then three, I think it is as much as possible not getting hung up in the numbers, which look is not easy to do. But I say that it's always been about creating community. And if I can be a part of the community instead of like the main dude or something like that, like I have zero interest in being like the biggest, like or best or something like that. What I'm interested in is being part of a community that's helping educators in the best way that I can. So if you make it about service, I think that it's just easier to do that stuff, and it's better. So that's what I'm thinking about. JJ Ward, is that a cigar box guitar? It is. It is from my friend Ron Proctor. You can find him on YouTube, and he makes them and sells them, and he sent me one as a gift, and I love it. It's so cool looking. Yeah, he's awesome, dude. So yeah, everyone should check out Ron Proctor. He's been making.
He's Mr. Proctor on Instagram, and you can probably find him on YouTube.
So
like that.
Proctor did a thing when he was distance learning where he pretended that he was in space. And I don't know what the hell vehicle he was in, but he wore like a spacesuit every day and like pretended that he was in space. And the videos were really funny. He's my kind of different dude. So it was, you know what I mean? Like, he's just like, he's an example of someone that's like teaching their class off, I think.
It's two-part.
Okay, cool. Sal Vandenberg. I'm just going to put it all together there. Question. I'm still in school to learn to become a teacher. What is your number one tip? My number one tip is to, what's something I don't usually say or talk about?
Work on yourself, because what did you just say this morning about
I think that's it. I think the number one thing I would say is that the stuff you're going to learn in school is one thing, but I think teaching is a confidence game. I think teachers that have confidence, that have some sort of a bit of swagger, or that have some sauce, can walk into a classroom. Doesn't matter who the students are, where they're teaching, what the resources look like, and they got it. And I think that takes confidence. I think when a kid mean mugs you in the back of the room, or a parent comes in and pushes back, it's a confidence game. I think if you want to try something crazy, if you have a great idea, it is building up confidence in yourself. And I think that is confidence comes from mindset. You are what you think about all day. We think about 90% of what you think about today is you thought about yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that, and the day before that, right? There are these circles that we run in our minds. And so it's about making sure that you are trying to build yourself up to be the most confident person that you can. And there's tons of stuff out there. I really like anything on impact theory is a really good podcast to find for mindset and that sort of thing. Or
you like Darius Daniels?
Darius Daniels' podcast is a really good one for that kind of thing too. So that's what I would think of. I think that's my number one thing, which doesn't sound teaching related, but it's like you can learn to pass a football, to catch a football, to do any number of things in football, right? But if you don't have the confidence to charge ahead and do the things that need to be done, then you're at a loss. So that's what I would focus on. Morgan is asking, random question. In your classroom, is that chalkboard paint or black paper? So Morgan, I did used to buy chalkboard paint, but then I found that chalkboard paint is a lot of money. I don't know why I'm looking around like I have a can of it here or something. It's like you get like those little, I guess it's a quart, right? Cans, and it was like, I don't know, $18, $15, something like that. But
pricey, you can for that small amount.
But for like $20 or less, you can get a whole gallon of just black paint. And it's not like I ever erase it really, because even if you erase it, it still looks like crap. So if I change something, I wash it off with a wet cloth and then I just paint over it again real quick because I have a whole gallon of paint. So all of the stuff at the top of my wall is blackboard is some of it's blackboard paint, some of it's black paint. But then I have this giant black wall in my room too that I created this year that the entire thing is black. And that changes per unit. So I'm always adding stuff to that. That was something I just did last year. I actually took that idea from Ray from the Teach Better team. She has a blackboard wall in her room and she's always changing it also. And I thought that was such a great idea. So yeah, so that's what I did. I've done paper before too, but paper fades. For some, blackboard paper fades really badly and it just ends up, it looks great at first, but then kids are always bumping into it with their backpacks and stuff like that.
It's above.
So that my recommendation is always that everything is above where you can touch it because students will touch anything that they can.
But I think the blackboard paper is a great idea for if you can't do the chalk.
Or paint. If I couldn't do chalk, I would, I don't know, I have hiccups all of a sudden, but I would get like a 4x8 sheet of plywood or 2 of them, really thin plywood. It's called Luan, Luan. And I would paint that black and then I would hang it on my wall. And that stuff's so light that even if your school doesn't let you do like nail things to the wall or screw things to the wall, I think you could hang that with command strips.
Really?
I think it's light enough that if you got like some serious command strips, you could put like 4 of them or 6 of them on the back. And it would be, I think you could do that with it. So that's what I would do. That's why I say like when, and not that Morgan was asking this, but like when folks ask me, when they're like, you get away with stuff that I couldn't do in my school. And I'm like, I'd love to be in that predicament.
Because I know
because I'd like to figure out a way. Like even my floating bookshelves, I've thought of ways that like I could do that.
Yeah.
I've thought of ways I could do a lot of the stuff I have that would just be slightly different so that I could get away with it.
Yeah.
Except for the flying books. But to be honest, look, I always say if I've had people say like the flying books are a fire hazard, bro. If the ceiling's on fire, it's a wrap anyway, right? Like if it got that bad, that the flying books are the least of my worries. If my whole room is engulfed in flames, it's like get the hell out of the building. You know that's your final indicator. How bad is it? I don't know. Are the book's on fire yet? Yes. Okay, get the hell out of the room. Run, jump out the window. Alex is asking, first school, or wait, I'm really doing a great job of reading. First year school guidance counselor here. What do you as a teacher look for an effective counselor in the school? So for me, I'm always looking for partners. I find that a lot of counselors I've worked with, because they are required to do paperwork, because they are like legally required, and so are we. I mean, we're mandated reporters as educators. I just think it's about being a bit more organic. And the folks that I've seen that have done that job, that have done the best, and that I've jived with the best are folks that are like just out and about with the students. They don't only come out when it's time to take care of a problem, because I find that students won't share with you if they don't know you. So like we've had times when like, let's say someone, there was some horrific incident, right? So like in our school, if someone is shot, if someone is killed, if someone dies, whether it's a staff member, whether it's a student, they always bring in outside therapists. And I always think that that's such a curious call, because although those people are trained, they don't know how to just get through to a kid that is like, doesn't want to talk to you, right? They don't like authorities coming in a lot of times. Like, and I don't just mean that by police. I mean, it's like anyone that is any sort of authoritative role that walks into the school. It's like our students are always kind of keeping an eye on whether or not they want to engage with you. And so, yeah.
Do you think that that's typical because of where you teach? Fully
no, but I would say that it has to do with one, just being a teenager. One, right? You're guarded. You're especially boys. I've seen that my male students have always been far more guarded than my female students. In mass, not to like overgeneralize, but like, and then I think that my students have often come from lives that like just have them keeping people at arm's length. And I think that could happen in a number of places. And I don't know if that's I don't know why that is, like, but they're nervous to have that vulnerability with people, right? And so what I'll see is, like, if we do have one of those moments, students end up going to the classes of the teachers that they trust and talking to those people instead.
Yeah.
So I've always thought that, like, we should just pull those teachers and have them speak to kids instead.
Yeah.
But I think that that's the move, like, for guidance counselors, and then just letting teachers know that you're a partner, that you're an ally, that you want to work with them. Just helps, right? Like, we need to let people know who we are and how we want to get down, and not expect that they'll figure that out. Like, oh, well, no, because I'm this person, or I said this in the beginning of the year. It's like going around and creating those personal connections with people, even if it's just saying hi to folks. And then, because we like I said before, we as people, we generally are attracted to what we're the most familiar with. And so if you're seen around the school and you're seen as a part of the community, then you'll, even if you're only in that school for 1 to 2 days a week, it's like making sure that you're doing that, because then you build that connection with people. Miss Warren is asking, currently reading the book. Good stuff so far. Thank you so much. But I am constantly wondering, how do you accomplish all this while being a parent? How do you find balance, family life with stellar teacher life? It is always pivoting, right? It is nothing set in stone. So one of the things I've really been thinking about is, so one of the things I actually, so I won't tell you about that. I don't want to put this down. I think I no longer bring anything home. So only my first year of teaching did I not have a child. Brody was born, this is my second year of teaching. And so that was like, right, second year? Yeah, because you brought him in. Mm-hmm. He was born this after my first year of teaching.
Yeah.
So when he was a baby, it was easier to stay longer hours because we were broke and we didn't have anything to do anyway. But then when he got older, it was like, no, I want to be more present for my kids. So it goes in waves. So like, even when I used to build, like, and I don't even talk about this in the book, I used to make these crazy elaborate sets for the play. I worked all on my own on like a shoestring budget. So it was a lot of me making something from nothing, but I really enjoyed it. It was really good for me. But I'm talking like 80, 100 hours building a set, something along those lines. So sometimes the kids would come to school, so you figure out a way to fill it in to make it work. And they would bring like their big wheels and scooters and just ride all around the school and stuff like that. And but then, now I'm at a time when I don't do any of that stuff. I do zero extra stuff at school anymore that is part of the school's thing, because I need to be home with my kids. And so I don't do any work at home anymore for school, or very, very, very little. So it's being where you are 100%. So like when I'm at school, I'm not doing Real Rap with Reynolds. I call my wife when I drive to Dunkin' Donuts and get coffee every day, but that's it. So I'm not like living somewhere else, half here, half somewhere else. I'm only in one place. So it's like that's what my dead set focus is on. So when I come home, I'm only with my kids. And so if you think about it, right? I know Gary Vee talks about this, but like when we think about being home with our families, being home with your family is great. But just being in the same house doesn't mean you're being together, right? So it's like when you're eating dinner together, are you actually eating dinner together, talking, engaging, and being connected? When I'm playing video games with Brody, I'm not on my phone doing something else. When I am watching a movie with Marley, I'm only doing that. Or if I'm outside skateboarding with the kids or riding bikes or whatever, I'm only doing that. And so if you think about what I get done with my kids in an hour or two is like what a lot of folks they don't even have that level of connection at all at night. So I think that's what it really comes down to, is like just focusing in. I know what I need to do. I'm not walking around the school. I'm not talking to everyone all day. I'm like with my students. I'm working on stuff. I'm dead set, focused. Then when I come home, same thing. When my kids go to bed, dead set, focused on Real Rap with Reynolds, and that's it. So I think that's kind of how it works out, is like just being where your feet are. Susie is asking, question, do you have any pointers for interviews? So I'm actually making a video that is coming out this week. For interviews, I think, the one thing I think is really important or two things. One is knowing where you're going before you get there. So I've never done online dating. But if I did, because I've been with my wife since 1995, I think if I was going on an online date, I would want to read that person's whole profile. Like I would, and not in a stalkery way, but like go on their Facebook or go on their Instagram or go on their Twitter, see what they're about, see what their viewpoints are, see what their interests are, see like, so you can show up ready to go. And I think if you don't do that, it would seem to me, you know, a person that's never been on an online date and hasn't been on a date in 25 years is, to me, it's like, hold on, son.
Sorry.
All right. It's showing up unprepared and looking like you're uninterested. And I think that's problematic. So what I would do when I show up to a job interview is know about the school, know about their championships, know about their wins, know about their student population. Like don't go in asking questions that you could have found out on their website. So do a little, and then also remember that you are child.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'll stop now. I'll stop.
That's okay. I got the ADD. Oh, that's way quieter. Thank you. So it's going in and remembering that you're interviewing them as well. Don't feel like this is like same thing on a date, right? Like if I was on a date, I wouldn't just be like, unless it was high, I wouldn't just be sitting there hoping that they were going to pick me. It's like, nah, I want to see if like you're someone that I'm interested in as well. And I think that interviews are the same way. But they don't end in a kiss. That's the biggest difference. Don't try and kiss anyone at the end of your interview. Awkward. Amelie, I think I'm saying that right. Amelie Franklin. I'm really doing bad at reading this evening. I think I'm saying your name right because it reminds me of that movie Amelie that I love. I'm a training gym teacher and would love to know what your favorite part of gym class was so that I can make it better for new students because I'm struggling to get everyone involved. So first of all, I'm going to say everyone that's my age had the same thing that they loved in gym class. And that was the parachute thing. They used to have this parachute. They throw it up in the air and you got to hide under it. It was freaking magical. I think when I was in so I went to a rough high school. I went to a high school that if we played street hockey, which we did occasionally at lunch, there were fist fights every day while playing street hockey. There were fist fights while we played basketball. I had one teacher, and one of the things I thought was awesome about him is that he would, I don't even remember his name, but I just remember he would do stuff with us. So even if it was like free time and we were outside and some kids were playing basketball, some kids were walking the track or running the track, some kids were doing, whatever it was over here. It was always the teachers that engaged with us, the teachers that would play basketball with us, that would play baseball with us, that would do hacky sack with us. And I always loved that because what it did is it breaks down the wall between teacher and student. And even now in my own classroom, when we are doing independent reading, right, which means everyone's reading for a set amount of time of the book of their choice, I always bring a book of my choice and I just sit with the kids. So whether that's on the couch, I'm laying on the floor, whatever, I'm doing it with them. When we are doing a project, I will walk and facilitate things. A lot of times I just sit with kids and I work on a bit of their project with them and I talk with them and do it with them. And I think that is so invaluable because young people so often don't have an adult that just is in it with them, right? So, and I'll say this, even when I was in college, after my mom passed away, I lived with my aunt for a while. And I couldn't get my cousins to be quiet. I had young cousins that were like always talking, running around, asking me questions. They always wanted to hang out with me and stuff, which I love them, right? I love them with my whole heart. But I needed to get my work done. So I did this thing called homework club, and I would wait till they had to do their homework. That's when I would do my homework. And then we made rules for homework club. You're not allowed to talk during homework club. You have to be 100% focused on what you're doing. And then we would just do it together. And there's something about doing things together that just makes it more manageable and more interesting. So I think that as a gym teacher, what can you get engaged with? Like, you're not just reffing the kickball game, but like you be in a kickball game, even if it's for a little bit, right? Like it'd just be fun and you're being an example and you're engaged with the students instead of like overseeing them. And I think that's what I would do. Anna is asking, can you apply for teaching positions your senior year of college before you technically have your degree? But would you have the time but you would by the time you started the position. That's a great question. I'd love to know if anyone did that before. I think I want to say I did that. I want to say, remember that school I got the job at right after I graduated, and then we were already going to Africa.
Oh yeah.
I forget what school that was, but it was such a good opportunity that I did like my practicum at a school. I just finished student teaching. They contacted the teacher that I did my practicum with, contacted me and said, "Yo, we have an opportunity opening up. I think you'd be really great for it. You should come in for an interview." I go in for an interview, and it was one of those interviews where like I didn't get it, but I went in and like knocked it out of the park. They called me right away. They were like, "Yo, they want to offer you the position, but they want you to start now and not at the end of not next year." And I was like, "Yo, I can't do it," because we were already planning on moving to Africa for a while, and so I can do it. But I'm almost certain that I did that ahead of time. And even my first job I had before my like certificate came in from the state, I didn't have that yet. And some schools will go with that. I think it's going to depend on the school. But I know in New Jersey, like the education department is so slow at getting anything back to you. And in Philly, I got a job before I had that. Like when I got my job in Philly, I actually didn't do any of the paperwork yet. They were like, "Do you have your license in Pennsylvania?" I'm like, yeah, I got it, because I didn't want to lose the job. And so I just prayed that it would show up quick, but Philly was super quick in getting everything back to you. Whereas I think in Jersey, I waited like 6 or 8 months to get that
Yeah,
piece
that's
of
because
paper.
there's nothing fast about Jersey.
No.
Jersey loves to tie things up in red tape.
We're just a
And
garden
we
state.
got whole lots of stupid rules for nothing.
Yep. You are.
Jersey.
Tell you right now, vowels aren't my friend, and so I'm gonna have a hard time saying your name. Eirenea.
It would take me so long just to figure out how to
Arena?
say it.
Arena? I think I'm sorry.
We're learning about vowels.
We are. We're learning about phonemic awareness and stuff.
Oh, did you read the question?
No, not yet.
Oh, sorry.
Because that's what I do. I just get stuck on people's names because I feel bad, and then it's like I gotta stop living. Where do you start when it comes to decorating a brand new classroom? Mine is just a blank square. This is a great question. I would say if I had a brand new classroom, one, I want it to be, there's a couple of things that I want to see in a brand new classroom, right? Like if I had to start fresh, it is what is best for students, which you're not really going to know right away, right? So like, do your kids like desks? Do they like stand-up desks? Would they rather sit on the floor? Do they want to sit on a couch? Are you allowed to have a couch, right? So it's like, so I guess knowing what the rules are, I would figure out a way to make seating flexible in some way, shape, or form. And even if that's not right now, even if you have to start the year with rows, that's cool. And a lot of us are held like, I'd say this all the time, I'd have no desks in my room if there weren't other classes that were in my room. Like I'm not the only teacher. I'm the only teacher that decorates my room and organizes it that way. But there are other people and they require rows. So it's like, I don't have that opportunity to just have no desks. The second thing is, how can I make it into a place that students want to be? I think that has a lot to do with things like lighting and next leveling regular stuff. So I never, ever, ever put the big lights on in my room. They're always off. I'd rather have lamps. I'd rather have window shades at a certain way because I want the vibe to be cool. The other way that I think you can really affect vibe is like, instead of like putting posters on your wall, just getting cheap frames from IKEA. That's why all of my posters in my room are all in frames. It just looks classier. It looks nicer and neater. And you don't get 97 holes in each corner where they keep falling. The tack falls out because someone bumped into the wall. You'd have to take them down every year. They're always kept really nice and neat. And then, so that's one thing as well. And then how can I make, for me as an English teacher, how do I make books look attractive, right? I find that students are far more apt to pick up a book that looks attractive than one that's just like if I can have books out like this and not like this on the shelf, if I'm always moving them around, so like the book ledges, as soon as you walk in my classroom door, always have different books on them. I spotlight different books by like taking them out, and I get like little holders for them that I think I made like AC Moore or something like that. Well, rest in peace, AC Moore. But where those books are like on a little stand, so they stand up, and I'm always talking about that stuff. So those are the three things I would think about the most. But I also think if you can get away with it, I think the blackboard paint or the black paint with drawings on it, which is just me projecting stuff up there and tracing it, is the move, because you can really customize your room when you do stuff like that. But yeah, I think those three things are what I think about most.
I think you're leaving out one of the things I love that you have talked about at different moments is your posters in your room reflect you and who you are, because that gives like a connection piece with students. And
so that's a good point, even in terms of I don't do any rules on my wall and I don't do any policies on my wall, right? And I do later when there's certain things I want kids to remember, like how to set up your journal or something along those lines. But what I don't want is I don't want anything telling you what you can't do, right? Because I think that, especially with 9th grade, like unless you were raised by wolves, like you know how to behave, right? Like if push came to shove, if you were at a thing, like your parents raised you with enough sense to know what to do. So, and I think that honors kids. I think that tells kids like, Leo, look, I'm not going to tell you to like bring a pencil. Like I don't have to have it on the wall, because you should just bring a pencil, bro. And if you came in without a pencil and you see the sign on the wall, it's too late now anyway. So it's having things in the room that reflect who I am, not just the books that we're reading, not just famous books in history, but all the posters in my room are all books that have been critical to the individual that's teaching, right? They are all part of my story. And so I want that to be reflected in the class as well. And then all the books in my library are all books that I want to reflect my students as well. So I want everybody, no matter where you come from, your race, your religion, your background, your sexual orientation, whatever it is, I want you to be able to find books that you can go, this speaks to me. So that's another thing as well. That's a really good question. I kind of
should do a video.
I wish I had like.
You have that one that's like from so long ago that actually. Yes, if you're interested, there's an old classroom.
If you just go up and do like classroom, just type classroom in, you'll find like.
I don't even think it has that many views because it's so old.
Yeah, it's buried.
But you show how to do the chalkboard.
Yep.
Wall on it, like how to project.
I kind of love. It would be dope to like help somebody with their classroom and like.
Chris Carson said that woman, the superhero teacher, whatever, that does classroom.
She did 5'1", right?
Yeah, she's doing a whole conference on it, which is a little.
That's a lot.
Much, but.
Is it in conjunction with like HGTV or anything like that?
Probably. Her rooms are super fancy.
Oh, they're too fancy. She puts orchids in rooms.
Yeah.
My kids would touch the orchid, the petals would all fall off in one day. It would look like stems out of rocks. It would be a nightmare. Sarah Ward is saying, any advice on balancing decompressing from the school year and setting reasonable goals for working on school units, etc. during the summer? I know that I need space, but it's easy to procrastinate. It's 100% easy to procrastinate. One, I would say don't procrastinate. I find that it takes about 2 weeks generally for me to come down off the school year. So the week that the school year ended, which was last week, I had a huge job where I had to make like 7-10 videos for a company that was paying for my videos for like a site that they are creating, right? So that was it, and it was like last minute. They were like, dude, we want to hire you to do this, but we need it by Friday. And I was like, all right. So I was on like 3 podcasts. I had mentoring calls. I had 10 videos to make, and it was the end of the school year. So like the other day, I just crashed. I slept until like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Like it was just working hard as hell all week. And so it usually takes me about 2 weeks where I'm not waking up and my first thought is what's happening at school today? What do I need to get to school early to? What's going on at school that I need to be prepared to talk to a student about? Like I got to get out of that mindset. But I think that I block my time. And so I actually heard a thing on a podcast this morning that I thought was brilliant. I'm going to share this with you. This guy was saying that he gets, this is on a podcast called the Ed Milet podcast. So Ed Milet says he gets 3 days out of every 1 day. And he said, the way that I do that is, he goes, 8 hours worth of work. If you think about, if you go to work for 8 hours, how much actual work are you getting done? Or people that are like, I go to the gym for 3 hours, bro. And then they go and it's like, but how much of that was you talking to everyone, waiting in line for stuff? Like, you're not actually working out. So what you do is you crunch the time. And so it goes from 12. This guy works from 6 a.m. to 12. And he says, I will get done a full 12-hour workday that he does, like whether it's 8, 10, 12 hours, whatever you're working, and get everything done in 6 hours, right? And just hustle, like I'm hurrying to get it done. And then from 12 to 6 is just family time. And then he goes back to work from 6 at night till midnight, right? And so as I was thinking about this, I thought that's basically my life on a lot of days. But like 6 hours for family, like, bam, like even I don't do that. Like not unless I'm just not working that day. That's a lot of family time. So I thought, well, how could I do that this summer? And so if you chunked up your day and just said, like, look, there's no backing out, right? You have to find that place in your day where it's like, for 2 hours a day or for an hour a day, you're doing schoolwork. One, I think you'd be really amazed at what you can get done in an hour when you need to get it done. And two, I think then it's doable, right? Like an hour a day is like, yo, I'm going to sit down and for an hour, I'm going to materials for this or organize this, create this curriculum app. Like you can get a lot done in an hour. And then if you want to keep going after that, great. If you don't. But like, that you got your hour in, and that's way better than 8 continuous hours in August. What you're doing is pacing yourself. So that's one of the things I've been thinking about. And then coupled with this dude that said on a different podcast the other day, who said he sets a timer. So they did a study on people that are really high achievers. And one of the commonalities that they found was that every 52 minutes or so, they take a break. So if you are working at your computer, which I usually work back here, I have been trying to do this thing where I set a timer for every 50 minutes, and then I take 10 minutes and I either, do some pull-ups, I'll walk outside, I'll do something in my garden, I'll water something, I'll talk to my wife, I'll take the dog out, like just something. So I'm not just staring at a screen all day. And they said that in doing this, what you do is you end up being able to work for a much longer time because you're not just crushing it in. And I am that guy. Like I won't pee for 8 hours because I'm just going for it and doing it. And headphones are on and the music's playing. And I'm locked in, like I'm plugged into the matrix. The kids will ask me a question. I'm like, oh, I'm doing it. I'm locked in. I'm in the matrix right now. But in taking those breaks, it's really a good idea to do. So I just thought that was really fascinating. Donna. Donna? Hey, Donna. I feel like I haven't seen Donna in a minute. Maybe I have, and I just didn't notice it, but it's good to see you. Speaking of your classroom with COVID recommendations, much of that stuff is deemed no bueno. I hate the institutional look. How do I convince admin to personalize? Do I ask for forgiveness and do it anyway? Donna, you already know. I'm going to say forgiveness over permission every day, no matter what. Because with all the conflicting information with regards to COVID, where it's like, when we went into our classrooms, no one had stepped foot in my classroom in like 5 weeks. They were like, you have to have a mask on. These are all the things that you have to do and not do. And I'm like, but it's dead. Like from what I understand, like actual scientists, when I hear them, they say, yeah, it can only live on these types of surfaces for this long. And it wasn't one surface that they were like, this takes 5 weeks. Like it was like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm good to go in my classroom when I get in there. And then I still came home and like got a shower that day because I was getting all dirty and stuff, and like washed my hands when I was done and everything. But I would never put someone's safety in jeopardy. I don't know what the hell this looks like when we go back. Like the amount of students I have that mumble or just shy, especially because they're freshmen, and then they have a mask on, and I'm trying to read their like I can't read your lips. I can't see what you're saying, right? So it's just like it just seems like a nightmare to me. But I think I would never put someone's health in jeopardy, but I would never make my room look a certain way if it's always only ever about the kids, bottom line. And so the other thing, Donna, that when I operate out of that mindset, if it's only about the kids, I have confidence to do anything, like, because I know what my why is. And so I think that that's part of where I'm coming from for that. So I don't know what they're going to say. I don't know, like, if my couch is going to be allowed this year. I don't know, like, any of that stuff. From what I understand, our school is right now, and unless there's an uptick in COVID in the fall and we go back to online learning, they're saying we're going back in September. They're saying our classes will be split in half. So like my first period will say, I'll have first period 2 different times a day. There's kids that come in the school. They only come for like 4 hours or something like that. They'll have my class for 40 minutes, but I'll only have like 12 kids. And then the other 12 or whatever will come in after that. But my classroom, it looks big online. It is not big. And plus it's in this funky L shape. So I don't know how we're supposed to keep kids separated. I'm going to be able to get 6 kids in my classroom safely. So who knows, man? It's this crazy thing that I've stopped thinking about. I'm just going with the flow.
I saw this on social media, but did you, Erica White Church asked, she said, did you see the face mask with the plastic window that the grandma made for her deaf grandchild? So there was on social media, there was like a grandma that made a see-through lip reading for her.
So, all right.
Right.
I didn't think about that, right? Because I don't teach
and you're never
deaf children, but
you don't peruse social very much.
I don't. I'm on there for business. It is fascinating to me, though, that I don't know that we've really thought about also students with auditory disorders, or I've had tons of students with hearing aids, but a lot of kids that refuse to wear them to school. Like I have all kinds of that, like because they don't want to stand out. I don't wear glasses and should wear glasses, but like, so that sort of visual of reading your lips is going to be
one as the teacher.
Really difficult, but that's also just hard to teach. Right? I don't know if anyone else has noticed this.
Well, I don't even know how if you're going to see it. It could probably get all foggy too.
Let's talk about when we go out. We were at a gardening center the other day. We go into the greenhouse. We got the masks on, and all of a sudden your face feels like it's on fire because you're just like, this is so dumb. Like it's so hot that I have to wear this mask now. And look, I realize these are like my first world problems, but still is a pain in the butt, man. It was like, it's hot out there.
Yep.
Schmidt Minutes, am I saying that right? Is asking, teaching in a private school has shown me that I would rather teach in a public school. Have you ever had difficulty leaving a position? My school tends to take professional moves personally, and it's tricky. I think, when I left I've only worked at 2 schools. And when I worked at my first school and I left, it was just emotional for me. And they totally took it. Like, let me tell this story. I won Teacher of the Year, right? It was my 5th year teaching. I was leaving Camden. I had heard it through the grapevine that I won Teacher of the Year. I was expecting to get the award that should give it out at graduation. And everyone, like the other teachers, had heard about it and got back to me. I wrote a speech and everything. I go in 2 days before graduation. I tell the principal, like, look, man, for monetary reasons, like I had my second child. I can't afford to work here anymore. Like I made so little money. I made more money working at Home Depot in the summer than I did as a teacher, which is insane.
And we put 5 years in at that school.
Yeah, and that was like, 5 years in.
I literally couldn't do it anymore. I was like, okay,
like
we're gonna drown.
So broke, and this is going to be in another book that I have planned for. But so broke that we used to the Chinese food joint across the street from my house. We would go in there and take extra napkins when we got food because we couldn't afford toilet paper in the summer. We were so broke.
So many.
We have so many stories of like living on the cheap on a level that like people had no idea like how broke we were. But it was because I felt it was missional for me to be there. So we go to West Philly. I tell them, and I'm at graduation. They're announcing the Teacher of the Year. They're saying all of this stuff. I'm like, all right. That's me. And then everyone gets excited. And then they announce it, and it was someone else. And literally, even the guy who got it, like, looked down at me like, what, bro? Like, huh? And it
All
was,
kids were upset.
all the kids were like, no, I thought, like, everyone was just like, what happened? And it's because they took it personally, because they were mad at me that I was leaving, even though I was very clear about what was going on. I think this is the thing. If what you're doing is based on the needs of children, on what you think the good work that needs to be done, and you're willing to do that good work, you cannot get hung up on how everyone else is going to perceive it, right? It's like you showed up there, you did the work. And look, private schools, look, I think all kids need good teachers, 100%. But the likelihood that a good teacher is going to show up at a private school, to me, feels like it's a much higher rate. Like that's where folks want to teach, right? I would assume. I don't really know this for sure, so I'm kind of talking out my ass. But but school, I know my school has a really hard time not only getting but keeping good teachers. And so if you want to show up at a school that like potentially needs good help, I think go for it. Because if you are focused on education's only ever about the students, it goes back to that piece of like, who cares what everyone else thinks? I'm about the kids. You gotta get mad at me because I left or whatever. But it's like trying to be about the kids. And that is what I would tell myself. I would meditate on. I'd say it over and over and over again in my head. And then, you know, if they don't like that, that's okay. But like, I'm just trying to be about the kids. So that's what my first thought would be. I see. Hi, Marley. I see you, girl. Calypso Lily is asking, what do you do to prepare for next year's lesson? I usually I take notes all year when I'm doing stuff. So like if I try something new, I will take notes and then like figure out what did I like, what did I not like, how could I change it for next year? And then I think the other thing that I do is I don't mull over my old lessons too much. I'm always looking for something new because, you know, I used to have the sense that like if I taught for 5 years, man, by that 5th year, my lessons were on lock. Like and this is teachers that I would talk about things like this. They're like, oh, by your 3rd year, you have everything pretty well situated, and then you just ride those lessons out for the rest of time. And it's like, that's so boring. That's like if you figured out a running playlist that got you jazzed, you were pumped, you put it on, you're just like, you're running miles, right? You're just crushing it. After a while, the playlist gets a little dry, right? You can't listen to the same, 5, 10, 20 songs for the rest of your life. So it's like this summer I'm watching stuff and I'm always watching stuff or listening to stuff with the mindset of like, how can I implement this into my classroom? So right now, we're watching the Michael Jordan documentary on ESPN because I know all of my students will have watched this, or the majority of them. And so it's like, what can I take from this that I can reference back to? Or I follow a lot of artists, street artists and different creatives on Instagram. And so I'm always looking at what they're doing and trying to think, how can I implement this into my classroom? How can I do this in my classroom? How can I take this little piece? So one of my favorite new ads, I don't know if I told you this, the Vans ads on Instagram, now they're good. They'll show up on your phone now because I said it out loud and our phones are listening to us. They are really well done and really fascinating. And it's like, they're artists that I loved that came out of skate culture, like in the 90s, that I followed since. And then I was on Instagram and like this artist ad popped up. It was like a Vans ad. And I was like, oh, I know who this dude is. Oh, and so then it like followed the rabbit trail. And then I was looking at they have like, well, they're bringing back old stuff. They have like retro Van, like the old like goat shoe looking ones with the padding around the top. They're trying to like reintroduce those with new styles. Which are the Vans I want to get. They work so well, I want to buy them. But
I know, but I just bought Vans.
So anyway, it was like the way he was doing the art and a couple of other things. I just took note. I made notes on my phone and I was like, I'm going to use this in class next year when we do some stuff. So that's, I think more than anything, I'm always looking for new influences, right? Like my classroom doesn't look like a regular classroom. My classroom looks like either somewhere that I want it to look like Thomas Edison's workshop is what I'd rather have my classroom look like, or somewhere that Gandalf would hang out. But I'm always taking inspiration from all these little places, because I think that teachers are more like DJs, right? You're always looking for the hook, and you play the hook of this song, and you're playing the hook of this song, and you have crates and crates and crates of records, and so you're teaching like a DJ all the time. So that's how I do that. Mr. James Pete is asking, you had a few really great multicultural books on your shelves in your video today. What would you say are the must-reads for anti-racism literature for teachers looking to dive into change? Hold on, let me make sure that was the end of your question. Okay, I didn't know if the ... was like you had a second part to it. So I think so what I've been reading, I'm trying to like, this is a good question, but it's
you just don't handle things always in the typical fashion.
No, I don't.
And
so that goes back to the same thing. So I don't handle things. I learn more. So I'll say this from the jump. I learn more from listening to stuff. So I've always been, it was books on tape when I was a kid, books on CD, lectures on CD, listening to podcasts. I think the Darius Daniels podcast the other day, so if I was starting off somewhere easy and it was a really good listen, I'm going to forget, it was episode 3 because this podcast is new, and I forget who the guest was.
He wrote,
you know what I'm talking. He wrote
The Woke Church.
The Woke Church.
Let me see.
Which is a book. But like, so even if you're not like a Jesus fan, right? This is still something you can listen to. It's going to bring a lot of interest, because even the way Eric Mason, yeah, was the guest. So the way Darius Daniels breaks stuff down is in a way that he's like Forrest Gump's mom. He just explains things in a way that I can understand them.
Yes.
And so that was really awesome to me as well. Why are all the black kids sitting together in the cafeteria? I'm currently reading. Another book that I just thought was really interesting lately was, I'm going to forget it. It's the new book about Jay-Z, but it's not by Jay-Z. It's like a guy who teaches, he has a course on Jay-Z. That was really helpful to me. And then I think, I say that my go-to book for anyone, especially white educators that are teaching students of color, is anything by Father Gregory Boyle. And I know I go back to that a lot. If you don't want to read his books, there's a really great documentary. I think it's called G-Dog. And it is what that shows me, why I always bring this guy up is, and the religion piece there too, but even aside from that, if you're not religious at all, there's this connectivity piece where he talks a lot about how, like, we are not serving our students or serving their families. This isn't a job of service. We are in community with these folks. And we are, if we allow it to happen, we are learning as much about ourselves. Our students are teaching us about who we are and what's important, as much as we are teaching them anything in education. And it's like things like that, because when you're in a service position, you're serving someone because they're less than, or they're poor, or they don't have what you have. But when you can be when you can level the playing field and you're working together on something, that's the shit that lasts forever. That's when it's game on, and students are calling you forever, because it was about that communal piece. So he's always my guy for that. I would say, I would direct you to, there's a really good video that Megan from Too Cool for Middle School put out on this very topic, and I would direct you there. She had no. Megan did that thing about like what white educators should be reading or something like that.
I didn't see it.
Yeah. And I would say, and my friend Smarty Style, LaTanya Robinson, has a new video out called Dear White Teachers, and I would direct you there as well. So that would be like my initial push into it. One last thing about that, I have a difficult time, especially in the summer, if something is too heady and theoretical, and it's like fact-based, like there's no sort of like if it takes the human element out of it, it's just, those types of books have never worked well for me. So it's like, I think that's why I like things told in story, because I gain more from that than reading something that's more like a textbook or something like that too. John is asking, so I hope that answered your question. John Grubel, John is asking, I noticed you have a bicep tattoo, a wrist tattoo, and your right arm. Did having such exposed tattoos hinder your chances of getting a job at teaching position when applying or interviewing for jobs? It did not, but I think depending on the school that I was going to, I don't know. I don't know if I would care.
Listening. I was kidding.
They don't hinder me in my job. I would have got my job anyway. There are a lot of people with a lot of tattoos at my school that show them, like women that wear like, you know, short sleeve shirts and their arms are sleeved out. Like my tattoos are always showing. And these are only the ones that you can see. But it's enormous. It sounds like a pterodactyl. So it didn't. I don't know that I would hide them. I think I would just go in and own it. Like I think
authenticity.
Yeah, I think it's an authenticity piece. I don't want to hide something from someone, but that's like if my outfit that day allowed it. Like if I went in and it was hot and I had a short sleeve shirt on or something along those lines, I would just rock it. But I know that a lot of schools do still have difficulty with teachers having tattoos. But yeah, I have not dealt with that. I wonder if anyone else has dealt with that or if has not gotten a job because of it or something along those lines. That guy Craig is asking, hey, I've been watching for a while and I was wondering about your thoughts on becoming a teacher, even though you weren't. I wasn't the most academic at school. So Craig, first of all, thanks for watching, man. No, I never wanted to be a teacher. That sounds like the worst. Like I didn't even like school. I liked school because I liked my friends. I didn't go to school because I liked school. But then I changed. Hey, nice shirt there, buddy.
I know. This is new merch, brother.
Rocking that merch.
Yeah, new merch. I know my face, my cheek. If
You're
anybody
all-
says, why
red.
is Brody's cheeks really red? And it's because my cheeks are always red.
Well, and you're working over there under all those
Yeah, I know.
lights too.
Yes. It's been taking me a long time, but I'm almost done.
All right.
Tell your kids to go check out Brody's studio. That B is capital and the S is capital too.
That was very
Yeah.
specific. Good work, boy. So what the hell was the question? I forget. Damn it.
Oh, I don't know.
Bro, what was the question?
I was a bad.
It was not the job. Oh, becoming a teacher. But then I course corrected in my life and I realized that that's exactly what I wanted to do. And I realized that all that I'd been doing built up to that was creating the person that needed to be in the classroom. So, yeah, when I see people now, so when my book came out, I actually had a ton of people from like middle school that started following me on Facebook and they were like, I can't believe you wrote a book. Like you're a teacher now. Like people were like I was just like never the guy that anyone thought was going to be a teacher. That's actually like, I grew up with this kid, Parker, and Parker was always in trouble with the cops. He would skate places. He would get caught all the time. You know, skating, especially where I live, I assume this is global, but like it was always breaking into somewhere and not breaking into like a building, but like jumping a fence and skating a construction site or skating a bank or a parking lot or whatever. And a lot of times cops would show up because you do it late at night when there were no cars there. And he was always getting in trouble, man. And then when we graduated from high school, I found out like years later, he became a cop. And it was like, dude, it was the most unlikely dude you'd ever think to be a cop. But I had kids like Willie Nunez that I follow on Instagram, who's like was so skinny. That kid looked like a walking tripod when he was in high school, and he was about 3 feet tall. And then he got really tall, and now he's the kid that's jacked, that does all the competitions and stuff, and he's a Marine. I would have never dreamed that kid would be a Marine, man. It's just, I would have thought, what are they going to do? Put you in a cannon and shoot you? Like, you know, you're like, you know, that dude. Fu Francis is asking, how do you prepare your curriculums as a one-size-fits-all so it will adapt to so many different types of learning styles? I think the way to do that is to create choice in whatever you're doing, or have elements of different learning styles in there. So like differentiation doesn't mean every kid gets to just hone in on what they're the best at. Because, what happens is like, we'll have something where like, I have certain students, all they want is the notes, they want the worksheet, they want the book, want the test. They're good at rote memorization, they're good at regurgitating whatever they learned, and that is their strong suit. Those same students are good at this. I have other students that thrive on projects. They are terrible at rote memorization, at basic, regular tests and those sorts of things. But if we make a project out of it, it's game on, right? But those things only serve those groups. So it's like when we're doing projects, these kids that are traditional, like are good at traditional school, they hate doing projects. So like, why do we have to do this? This is so dumb. Can't I just have the worksheet? Blah, blah, blah. So it's trying to stretch kids in different ways to help them grow. But by doing that, you're trying to hit all these different markers to make sure that different students have different things that they can do. Or having, like I said, choice, where it's like, okay, here's what's coming up. You have 2, 3, 4 choices that you can do. And then that's what your group is going to do. And I found a lot of luck in that as well. I think it's hard to plan on the front end. What really happens is like, you can plan it maybe for your first unit, but if I'm going to plan out, if I do 5 units, 6 units during the year, I want to really try and plan that first unit. And there's not a lot of wiggle room in that. But then once I see who my students are, what they're about, what they like, what they don't like, what they get into, then I start changing that as the year goes on, right? So I'm honing my lessons that are to be far more student-centered as the year goes on. But in the beginning of the year, I don't know who my kids are. And I never, under any circumstances, ask last year's teacher about the students this year because I don't like the answers that I get. Like, I don't want to go into a year and they're like, all right, so this kid, the worst, or this kid, super easy, or this kid cheats. It's like, I don't want to know that because they might not do that for me. I want everyone to enter with a clean slate. And so I don't ask that information, but that's how I try and, plan that stuff out before the beginning of the school year. David Ginsburg is asking, I'm in my last 6 months of college before student teaching. What if I can't find a job when I graduate? So David, first of all, that's awesome. Congratulations. I think there are always, so it's like if you are, our school, we are, am I still on? It says the connectivity was weird.
Yeah,
oh, cool. It is, so like, where are you willing to teach is one. 2, how far are you willing to go to teach is another thing. And if you can't, I would, if I was out of a job, I'd never do another job that wasn't teaching because I want to continue to like sharpen the axe, sort of, right? So I would do tutoring because you're still connecting with students, you're still going over content, you're getting all these different opportunities. You could substitute teach, although I hated substitute teaching, but some people really love it, so that's an opportunity as well. Or I think 2 sites, one of which I did a deal with before, but I've never worked for them, but I know of their model and I know other people that have done it. One is Dada ABC. I actually worked with them before, but I have no affiliation with them at this time. Or what is it? VIP Kids is the other one. They both pay really well, more than you're going to make like working at, some side hustle.
At least they did when we did it. I heard their prices changed.
So oh, really? When we did it, it was like $30 an hour or something like that. So, and that's
what they offer.
You're not going to get a job working at like, delivering pizza for that much money.
No, although Home Depot does pay pretty decent, they are not going to match that.
No, and they don't even pay what they used to pay either.
No.
When we started at Home Depot, we thought we were like kings of the world, making $10 an hour or whatever it was back in 2000. It was like, damn, $10 an hour.
Yeah,
people are rich. We can get the shrimp top right now. We're not even. Are you back?
My mom's telling she's like, quiet. I'm like, I can't be quiet when I'm laughing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Bro, this fly has
he just banged into the window.
I'm afraid if I get the fly swatter out, he might hold it. He might catch it and be like, oh, you will not crush me.
Open the window.
Philip is asking, I was so confused when I watched your videos. I was so confused when I watched your videos. when I saw that how you decorated your classroom and set it up. We don't have that. It's just plain classrooms. Do you have complete freedom with that? I do. I didn't before though. So my classrooms have always been extra, but that's always because I like that, right? So part of it is absolutely for the kids. Part of it is I like making spaces. So like even when I was a kid, my bedroom was like on 11 all the time. Like it looked like no one else's bedroom. My house, I do a lot of that same stuff. My shed, my garden, like I like creating spaces. So I now I wouldn't ask anything. Like I just do whatever I want basically at this point in my classroom. But that part of that I think is because like they bring visitors into our school all the time and it looks really good. And so I think if I'd asked, I paint this whole wall black, put black paint up here and hangings from the wall and bring in a tree and bring in a couch and make standing desks and put literally hundreds of holes in my wall to put up all these bookshelves and stuff, no one would have ever signed off on that. But I think over time, like doing it in the summer, doing it in the middle of the night, I'm very known for like showing up at school at 10 o'clock at night, staying until 4 o'clock in the morning and working on stuff. I've gotten to a point where like I just asked for forgiveness over permission and I got away with it. But no one else in my school does that. Like no one else's room looks anything remotely like mine. They're very, very cool rooms. I have people I work with. This woman, Miss List, has like one of the coolest rooms I've ever been in. But she's found a way to work within the parameters of like what most schools would allow you to do. So yeah, so I get away with that now, but I never did before. And now, the cool thing is no one ever thinks about moving me out of my room because it's like
too much stuff.
It's too much. Because I did it one year, but they brought it up here. They were like, "Oh, Reynolds, there's a rumor that they're going to move your room," and I'm like, "Tell them if they do, I'm moving all that stuff with me, and I'm going to do the same thing in the next room." So they don't want me, spreading out in the school because there are old classrooms of mine that still have blackboard paint at the top. Still, my pictures that I drew up there. Even though that teacher doesn't teach any of that stuff, still all that decoration is still in there. I'm going to say your name wrong. Ekurisona. I apologize for not being able to say that. Reynolds, do you know anything about Angela Watson's 40-hour work week program? No. Let's screenshot that. Oh wait, I didn't screenshot because your phone.
I have an old one.
Oh, how do you do it on yours?
Oh goodness.
I'm sorry, babe. I have the 11, and on the 11, it does it differently.
Mm-hmm.
Did you screenshot it?
I did.
Cool. I don't know about that, but I'll look it up. If anyone else knows about that, maybe they could say something to it. But 40-hour work week sounds so light and delightful sometimes. Actually, not really to me. I don't know what that is, but I know I love working a lot of hours. Like when I don't have stuff to do, like Real Rap with Reynolds is one of the best things that ever happened my summer because I just have stuff I have to do.
Yes.
So
CJ needs to be busy all the time.
I like
well, it's how you work. You work best in that fashion. When you think you need a break, it's like
I can do a hardcore break for a couple of days. Like
you can, but
where I'll just like
if you had a whole summer, if all you did was teach, you get antsy and
like there's days where I'm like, I'm just watching TV all day tomorrow. And then I'll get to 12 o'clock. I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. We have to go do something. And that's just my personality. Like there's something I envy about people that are like, no, I just go home and just like watch Netflix or chill or drink wine. And I'm like, that actually sounds real nice. It's just not who I am.
Mm-mm.
But I'm also not like, I'm not Adam Welcome who's going to run 10 miles every day either, where I'm just like, bro, I can't, that's not me. Like, so I think
don't say that you can't, because you can. You just don't have
an
interest.
I don't have an interest. And so I think what's important there is like finding out how you work best and what works best for you. And then doing that is the move. Nicole McNevin is asking, any advice on not taking things personally from kids? I'm a teacher and I'm still not used to how direct they can be. So look, Nicole, I think this is something I'd love to do a video on, but I've been thinking about it. So some videos are like, I just make them. And then other videos I have to kind of like meditate on for a while.
Can you disconnect?
Because one of the things that, how do I say this? What is happening? Guys, I have too much ADD. You start talking, I get pulled into it. I've had ruin my whole weekend, my whole week, I've had kids ruin parts of my summer because they said something that was so direct, so hurtful, so mean, and I internalized it. And so I find the best way to deal with that for me is I gotta train myself to address it when we go back. Yo, I need to check back in with you because you said this thing last week and we got to work this out. We got to talk about it. And if it's not just me, it's going to be me and another teacher that are going to work on it and do it together. Because otherwise it will eat away at me, right? I have this thing, I've talked about it. I don't know if I talked about this in the book. I think I did. But I've talked about it in videos before. Growing up in the environment that I grew up in, I had to figure out, so like I'll say it like this. Growing up with a mom that was dealing with her husband dying. So my dad died when I was 4. He had brain cancer. He was sick for my whole life. And then seeing my mom sad after that, I was always trying to figure out ways to make my mom happy. And so that made me, I became very, very intuitive as to like being able to read people and how they were and what they needed. And so I really liked making my mom happy. And I think that as an adult, what that did to me was like, I really like being liked by people. I do not like when people don't like me. It really hits me hard. And so, but that intuitive piece, right? Like I don't damn that. That's the shadow side, because the intuitive piece really makes me intuitive to pick up on body language, on like things I see in kids or notice in their family members that other teachers don't always see, because I've honed that craft. But it comes with the shadow side of me being really deeply affected when someone doesn't like me. That being said, I find that is directly addressing those things and getting to the bottom of it, because what I found far often than I ever would have thought is that it has nothing to do with me, it has everything to do with the student or the person that doesn't like me, right? It's rarely something that I did. It's something how they think I meant this, but I meant this instead. And so when you do that with people, when you address it head on, you're not letting that fire gain oxygen. I am suffocating it immediately or as quickly as I can. And I think that is the move. And say like, hey, that can be as easy as, you were really upset the other day, right? We've had some space. I really want to talk to you about that because I'm concerned that, you were hurt or you were upset or whatever happened. So I think that's how I would address it. And that's how I address things with everyone, whether it's, a friend, a coworker, a student. I do not let things stew. I'm not into that. It doesn't do any good. Last question?
Yes.
For now, because we're at 1:20 and I'm starving and the kids have to eat. Squidgy Mom? That's the name. I think I said it right. Advice for new teachers creating curriculum over the summer. I'm interviewing this week for a potential job and have no idea what I'm doing as a career switcher. So I would say this. I've talked about this at length. So if you go through some of my other content, you'll find me talking about this. I think that it is not so much recreating the wheel and starting curriculum from nothing. There's so much curriculum online. Now, whether you get that from Teachers Pay Teachers or whether you get that for free somewhere, there's tons of stuff that exists. And your school might also, like if you get a job at a school, they might hand you the curriculum or at least give you what the old teacher. I think school is so much more about sprinkling magic on things that already exist and not recreating the wheel all the time. So biology is biology. Algebra is algebra, right? But it's how are you going to explain that concept? How are you going to do it in a way that your students understand? And I think that is, for me, that's always teaching a lens that students actually care about or are interested in. It's about finding out who your actual students are and then doing what is next, like figuring out a way for that student to understand this thing. So curriculum to me is like a box cake, right? The box cake is the box cake. You get it, you put it in the bowl, you mix it with oil and an egg or whatever the hell. I don't really make box cakes, but I'm gonna use this metaphor anyway. to me, what's far more exciting and engaging is how do you present that? What is the platter that it's on? What are the sides that it's with? What kind of icing does it have on it? Or sprinkles or decoration that's on the top? That is what I'm interested in. So I look up, say like when I started teaching any book, right? Persepolis, Fahrenheit 451, whatever it is. Fahrenheit 451's been around for, I don't know, 50 years or more, something like that. There's so much stuff out there. I know those free lesson plans online. I print all of them out and I go through them and highlight the parts that I like. And then I figure out a way to put that together. That's my curriculum, right? It's there. Now, how do I next level this? How do I sprinkle magic on this? That to me is the really fun part, because imagery is imagery, metaphor is metaphor, but how do I make it come alive? How do I make it exciting and not some dull, boring, generic cake in a box? I make an exciting, extravagantly amazing looking cake in a box. That's my game plan. Look, gang, before we get out of here, I am doing a virtual conference with Hope and Wade King and my friend Shivy from Instagram. Don't call me Shivy on Instagram. Called Be About It. The conversation is around.
You said it again. Don't call me Shivy.
Don't call me Shivy. He doesn't want you to not call him Shivy. He wants you to call him Shivy. Real name's Albert. It's so funny when I call someone by a nickname.
I don't know, because I was just thinking of the people that were over the other night, because I don't know their real names either, because you call people weird things.
That's what I do. Call people weird
nicknames.
So the idea here is to have a conversation, to take a lot of the stuff that's coming out right now with regards to Black Lives Matter, but how do we live out Black Lives Matter coming up? There are a lot of really interesting people that are involved in this. Like I said, it's Hope and Wade King, who used to be at the Ron Clark Academy. It's my friend, call me Shivy. It's Barry White. It's not the singer, but the educator, and all these other fantastic people that are part of it. So I encourage you to check that out. And then also on Amazon, you can get my book, Teach Your Class Off. Buy one for you, buy one for a friend. You're not an educator, or you have a friend that's going to graduate that's an educator, get it for them too. And that's it, gang. I hope that you have a great week, and we will be back at our regular time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next week on Sunday. And that's it.
Wait, next Sunday, is that Father's Day?
Is it? I don't know.
I don't know either.
We will potentially be back.
Oh, it is. It is. Do you not want to be?
I don't know. We'll make an announcement during the week. I'm not going to sit here and listen to people actually, hold on for 1 second, everyone. So that's it, gang. Thank you. Peace. Hitting all the buttons and ending this thing.